I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and this is iCrime. Our first video begins with a boy having a great time dancing on a corner to one of his favorite songs. It's a great scene that turns ugly when a man does the unthinkable and attacks him. The entire incident was caught on live stream in July of 2020. 12-year-old Ethan Hagler is playing music and dancing with another young boy on a street in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. They're joined by their dance instructor, Michael Curry, the owner of Fingerprint Urban Dance Studio. The trio takes turns showcasing their dance skills when a car pulls up. Initially, it seems the stranger is there to join the fun, until Cedric Moore gets out of his car, does a wind-up, and sucker punches the young Hagler. The boy hits the ground, and Moore runs back to his car and speeds away. People gather in shock as Ethan Hagler doubles over, clearly in pain. Dr. Gayani DeSilva is an adolescent and child psychiatrist, and doctor, this is a really tough video to watch.
This video of this man who gets out of this car and dances around and then punches this child is horrifying to watch. How can we make sense of something like this? It just hits you right in the heart that why would anybody want to hurt a child when we're supposed to take care of children?
Right, this 12-year-old, he's a tall kid, but he's just 12, and he's minding his own business, having a good time dancing, and this man stops his car. It's not like he's even walking by. I mean, he makes an effort. What does that tell you?
So that tells me that this was a deliberate act. He was probably riding around looking for somebody who was defenseless to harm. This tells me that he probably has pretty significant pathology going on. And we know that people who have sociopathy or antisocial personality disorder or some other kind of mental illness that might preclude him to not care about another person, these people do have changes in their brain. Their brains are different than other people who might have empathy and take care of people. And we've noticed that sections of the brain that are involved with feelings and then sections of the brain that are involved with dealing with anger and anxiety in these people who commit crimes like this, those connections are few and far in between. So they're more likely to act on their feelings in that moment or in their idea in that moment without any regard for the other person.
But what on earth would set him off, seeing a kid on a street corner dancing to some music? I mean, that's the baffling part of it.
It's completely baffling. I suspect that I believe that this man has had a history of child abuse and domestic violence. So these are patterned behaviors. They don't just come out of the blue. People don't just drive around looking for a kid to harm or a defenseless person to hit. They have these kind of behaviors throughout their life. So I suspect that he either had anger or envy or had a bad day. I mean, maybe he had a piece of chocolate cake that was kind of stale and he was really irritated by it and didn't know how to manage his feelings and went looking for someone to act it out on.
Well, thankfully, the 12-year-old dancer wasn't horribly physically hurt. I mean, obviously, who knows what kinds of psychological scars you might have from being cold clocked by an adult, when you're dancing on the corner and minding your own business.
Yes, I'm glad the child only had a concussion from being hit by that man, but absolutely he could have emotional scars from this. I would expect that he would be more anxious, at least in the short term, and possibly even the long term, and develop something like post-traumatic stress disorder, where he might have depression, high anxiety, panic attacks, hypervigilance, nightmares, difficulty sleeping. He may have changes to his appetite. He may be really reactive, so that when other people approach him, even innocently, he may have a startle response, or he may even actually be so irritable and reactive that he fights other people. I would expect that these kind of behaviors would manifest in him, and he might need some assistance in resolving this incident. Luckily, children are super resilient. So with a lot of care and nurturance, a lot of positive regard towards him, he can get through this and have it not really affect him for the rest of his life.
Okay, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ethan Hagler was treated for a bloody nose and a concussion from the assault. He was later released. Cedric Moore turned himself into police and was charged with second-degree assault. He pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 7 years in prison. He had a record of previous assault and endangering a child.